I mean, because like for me, like social media comes in a little bit like when I'm an adult, but basically, you're like your entire life related to creating music is directly correlated to social media because your whole world is connected like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm 29 years old, so like, I mean, I used to be on. I was past the MySpace era, but I got in when it was like High Five and
Holy
like those apps
shit!
like that,
I
like before
fucking
Facebook,
forgot
you
about
know?
High Five.
Yeah, the era right after MySpace and before Facebook, people were in like High Five and all those little websites.
Right.
And yeah, I was always hip to that stuff. I was always on top of things, and because I had missed out like before high school, I didn't really have internet like that, so I wasn't on MSN too much. I was always like, oh, I wish I could chat with my friends, but I didn't have internet all the time.
Right.
So when it came to like high school, I was like, yo, I need to be heavy on that social media now.
Right. So you get to high school, you're heavy on social media, you're a beat maker. Do you find it easy to like connect with people at this point, or is it like difficult? Because I know like rappers, they'd be like, I put my shit out and everyone loved me in high school. And then after high school is where they find it got kind of hard. I mean, I guess with your freestyle, everybody loved that shit, which is dope. But like when it came to like
Mhm.
getting connected with beats, connecting your beats to rappers and stuff, did you find that that was a simple process or was that hard?
Oh, at the beginning it was very hard. Like even just like showing my beats to friends at school, like at that time my beats sounded really like jazz because I was still using GarageBand and stacking sounds. So it was like sounds that were in GarageBands which were like very jazzy, like saxophones and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, it sounds good when I was putting together, but when I showed it to people, they're like, oh, it's more jazzy than hip hop. And then I was like, oh, okay. So then I started to try to evolve my sound to be more hip hop and like try to get better at producing. And then I think I started getting more towards like the Lex Luger type beats and like stuff like that. So I transitioned from like jazzy to more like the early trap days. But yeah, it was very like no one was really using my beats back then. Like even myself, like I would use them myself, but like it was like a very early stage of beats. Like they weren't complete and all that. So I had to work on it some more.
So when did you start to like migrate into like well what comes after the garage band? You start creating your own sounds or do you start getting like kits or how does it like work when you're delving into the world of beat making post garage band?
Oh, so after GarageBand, I maybe used GarageBand for like a year and a half when I started. But then, we're in the generation of crack and like pirating stuff. So I pirated FL Studio. Like one of my friends helped me to get it. I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And
Right,
then
right.
then I started doing the tutorials. And then that's when I got the FL Studio that I got to be like start more composing, like doing little thing on the piano. I was doing simple notes at first, like just like, oh, C, D, C, D, E, like don't. So it was like very basic stuff. I wasn't like into chords yet, but FL Studio kind of got me better at producing, because there's more options and the sounds. I was downloading sound kits from the internet and just trying to work with those like different kick sounds, snares, and everything like that.
Yeah. That makes sense. So a lot of people ended up going the FL Studio route. And so with the tutorials, you start making beats. Does moving to FL Studios, so you're what, 16ish maybe then? Does that is that what makes you kind of want now that your beats I guess are evolving, does that what makes you want to start rapping more too? Because you have better beats to work with and are you able to move those beats to other people simpler?
Well, I think the two reasons I started rapping on that time, I think is one is because I needed someone to rap on my beats. I was like, I could do it myself. And I think I owe a lot of my rap career to Lil Wayne because I had a period where I was listening to 50 Cent and all that, but then around high school, like from 2008 to 2010, 11, like Lil Wayne was running shit. So I was like, I was starting writing, but I would write like Lil Wayne. I'm like, oh, I off your head and I send your head to your baby mama's house. But then, I never got into a fight at that time. I never held a gun, but I was rapping that hard shit as if I was a gangster because of Lil Wayne.
Right.
So I started writing those types of bars. And Lil Wayne also had those stupid punchlines, which were hard at the same time. So I was like, yo, I could do that. And then me and my friends would always like do little puns that turned into rhymes. And then we would just write them on paper while we're not paying attention in class. We're just writing rhymes on our loose leaf, like Hilroy, like notebooks and stuff like that. So
Yo, that's an
it's
excellent use of
Louisy.
time. I mean, I know people might think that's a wild thing, but I look at it like you make music today. So all that time you spent writing rhymes in class, Excellent use of time. I mean,
That's right. Look at me today.
so you get into it with the
I haven't
little.
got a.
Sorry, say that. Say it again.
No, sorry. I was gonna say something else. Never mind. Continue. It was just a joke or whatever.
Nah, it's okay. You're allowed to joke and stuff. But like, so you get into the rapping, you start making your own beats. Do you guys like? Do you start to like work with people, or is it mostly like a solo thing at that point? And are you like getting more connected into the bigger community around you? Because I know it's still high school, but like sometimes people get wildly hooked up to people in high school.
When high school, I didn't really work collectively as much. Like I put out some like songs, whatever myself, recorded on a laptop mic or whatever. But it's only like after it's probably like 2012 where I really started to like take music more seriously and working with other people. Like all before that, high school and CJEP, it was mostly me like kind of trying to find myself through music.
Right.
And then later on, I connected with people,
So that was like a
like more 2012 and after around that time.
Okay, so like you look at it like that whole school process was you just practicing your skills, learning how to rap, record, and do all of the beat making kind of stuff. Were you also, I guess, constantly publishing along this point? I know you said there was a couple of things you dropped, but was it like mostly stuff you kept in the vault?
I think the first ever track I dropped, it wasn't because I didn't go to a studio and it didn't sound like quality. I was recording on a laptop speaker. So the first kind of song I dropped was just on Facebook, and it was I think Drake Light Up. I used the beat from Drake Light Up, and I kind of freestyled on it, and I put it out on Facebook. But I wasn't really putting anything out anywhere else like that. Like my beats, maybe I put on YouTube just to see, but I wasn't really putting anything. Maybe SoundCloud back in the day, but it's really like later on that I started like more posting it out there and like try to get the sound out there.
So like, what makes you decide to start to take it more seriously?
Um, so I think is because right, I went to high school until like 2010. I went to CJEP till like 2012. But I think towards the end of CJEP, I started to get a full-time job. And at that full-time job, there was people that also made music. Because like I found in my life, because I worked in a lot of call centers, and a lot of call centers have a lot of musicians. Because if you think about it, like call centers are like jobs where you have to be good with your voice and like have some type of like motor skills on the computer. So my producing skills helped me with the computer, my rapping helped me with the voice. And then there was like a lot of artists, and then we're like, oh, okay. Chris Chrome was working there. Like your boy Chris Chrome worked at a place called Logit. A guy named Maxim, which is called by Solo the Kid, and Tristan, which goes by Lucius P. Thundercat.
Yeah.
And then we had a manager too, named Matthew. So we're all working together, and we're like, oh, you make music, you rap, you rap. And then Matthew, which was the manager, he decided to kind of bankroll us, and he brought us to our first studio ever to record, like in an actual studio. And I think that's when I decided to take it more serious, when I realized we kind of did it as a group and we each had something to bring to the
So
table, and
all
then we're
five
just
of you were
recording
at the
each our
same
songs at the
call
studio.
center. All five of you were at the same call center.
Yep.
That is a wild thought that call
That's where we
centers
kind
are like
of
the hub of Montreal. Like, shout out Jumpin' Joe for
yeah.
coming through. Anecdotally, call centers were hot for my music career. I basically stopped performing when I stopped working in call centers and being connected to them. It just ended. My opportunities, like,
Wow, that's crazy.
because, who the fuck tells you about a rap show in Corpo Land? It's not like that. Nobody be doing it. The musicians aren't really there. You do find a lot of EDM guys, though. EDM's an exception because people be wildly different in that world. Not no disrespect, man, but it's just wildly different. But yeah, no, the second I left call centers, it was like,
Yeah.
I never went to a party again quite the same. Now it's fucking Sanka sets and it's all restaurants with like fancy wine and shit, and it's just a different vibe. That's a crazy observation from Montreal, though.
Yeah.
Because I bet most people that do the call center grind really do get connected like that, and you end up just meeting so many rappers, and people burn through so many different call centers in this city that like it's very rare that you last a long time at a single call center.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot. It's like call centers always have big turnarounds, like all the time. They're always hiring new people. They fire the old people that don't perform. And like coincidentally, I started working call centers like around since I was 15 years old. That's mostly most all my jobs I did were call
You started
centers.
working at
And
15?
I guess it ties in with the music too. Yeah, I guess I was a hustler or some shit.
That's wild.